Dog is a little, it's like Dog, Cranberry, Whitefish lakes. It's a whole cluster of small lakes in there too, but typically I'd say Dog, you'll see, and part of Cranberry gets a giant algae bloom. And this year with the heat, the way it's been, it's definitely going to be real pea greens, like pea green soup. It's insane. You know, it's going to fish pretty much, setting up pretty much the same as it did for the Classic a while back. And I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good about the way things are going. And I think there's a topwater bite in there. You know, the scum and the mats and stuff like that, but there's definitely a deep water fishery there too. You know, when I say deep water, you know, 8 to 20 foot, those deeper milfoil beds and stuff like that, points and stuff, that's typical stuff. You can go, there's a ton of fish in that lake, but so you can catch a limit pretty easily, and I'd be surprised if somebody didn't catch a limit, unless, of course, the weather turns really south, because being predominantly largemouth fishery, I find that the smallmouth just aren't affected really as negatively like largemouth are by the weather. So the largemouth can shut down. There'll still be fish caught in big ones, but it'll be the guys that are dialed into the spot on the spot, definitely. So the last events on Dog for us, I believe, was the Classic, and that was an interesting event. Because it was the first year that we started filming for the TV show, so it was exciting and new. We were having a decent season going in, and we ended up day one, weighed in, you know, relatively dismal weight, a little disappointed. A couple of missed fish cost us a couple of pounds. That would have brought us up into a better bracket, but I think we weighed in like 14-ish, 13 pounds, something. But the next day, the weather just turned south. It was foul, and it was going to be a tough bite. I mean, the wind was howling, I remember, because we got so gnarled up in the weeds and stuff on our first spot there. But no, man, we lit it up, like literally in like less than 10 casts. We had like 17, 18 pounds in the boat. It was back to back on fire. And we spent the rest of the day just drumming up some, you know, a half pound here, a couple ounces there, and poked our way up. Brought in the biggest bag of the day. It was 1924, somewhere around that. And we sat in the winner's boat for a long time until I came down to like the last three teams, and we ended up finishing 4th for the Classic that year. So I mean, to finish those guys that were up there, you know, that's the year that Lenny and Jeff won. But wow, to finish with those guys, stoked. I'll take 4th. First would obviously be like, yeah, but it was a nice feeling. It was just good to cherish that moment and have that, you know. Like I said, I see it setting up like it's, you know, summer patterns. The nights are actually starting to cool off a bit, but I think it's still a little early to, you know, see them set up sort of that fall pattern and stuff. But it's going to be a late summer fishery, flip and slop and frogging, deep. There's going to be a lot of running and gunning because there's so much stuff in that lake that looks good, and there's a lot of fish in there to be caught. But again, it's going to keep the guys who are going to key in the spots on the spots. They're going to hammer them. Into this tournament, I think some of the key factors, again, like spot on the spot, relatively good knowledge, minding the weather and the wind, and playing, you know, fishing your spots, I guess, with that kind of stuff in mind. It'll be real, for the guys that are going to do well, it'll be a real strategic game, I think. But there is always kind of that blind luck. You never know when you're going to sink into an absolute sow, you know, pull 5+ over the boat or whatever. So, hands down, you got to watch out for Mr. DeVos. He knows that lake inside and out. I think Dwayne Clifton and Dave Western know that body of water pretty good. There's so many sticks fishing this year, like with like 80 boats for RBT Tour, which is absolutely amazing. Like, you never know, there's a lot of guys. Obviously, yeah, you know, Bobby and I want to see ourselves do well. We've got some knowledge and some history there, so the potential is there, and maybe even some expectation, but we'll see. Fishing is fishing, and I'm going to have a blast doing it, whatever. It doesn't even matter. I'm gonna be stoked for whoever wins, and hopefully that's me on the podium instead for a change. I think you're gonna be looking at like that 20-pound bag is gonna. I'd feel pretty darn good about that for for a win. I think the top 5 could be spread out depending, but you might see that sort of 17 to 17 and a half pound up to the maybe the close to 20-pound gap, I think, for the top 5, and then you'll see I think a ton of fish between sort of 17 to 13 pounds kind of thing, and then maybe a bunch of small bags below that.